Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight we'll be discussing something we all should have, which is friends. We have friends, people that care for us, people that understand us. Unfortunately, when you've been involved with a cluster B creature, this may not always work out the way we would like for it to. Much like when you're involved with such a cluster B creature and you may go to friends of yours for support, you may not get the proper support, and there are reasons for this. Tonight's discussion begins with a personal experience. Back when I had escaped from the decade-plus long-term cluster B creature relationship, I had a friend of mine that I used to hang out with every week. She had moved along in different paths, had a child, a husband, and I didn't see her as much. We isolate ourselves many times from close friends when involved with such a creature, which I hadn't isolated, but I just didn't see the person as much, and not just because of my situation either. After this thing was over, we'd made plans to meet at some pie restaurant in between our neighborhoods, kind of like meeting halfway. But I recall specifically catching up, listening to her stories about her life. Then it came my turn, and I was wanting to confide in this person, and I started to tell about my own experience. And I had mentioned that I'd recently been seeing a person, but I couldn't help but have some doubts about the person. And I only gave a little bit of information, but I explained how I've met this person, however, it doesn't seem completely right. I was responding to the red flags that I'd already seen. Her response to my story and my information and view was something like,
well, maybe this person just really likes you. Maybe this person was really interested in you.
And it kind of felt as if her mind was thinking,
so you had that relationship with that person that I didn't even like,
because she didn't like the creature.
And now you found someone new. You just need to accept the fact that there are nice people out there. Just because you were involved with an evil one doesn't mean everyone else is evil.
Which is something I've thought of before and gone over before many times. And I understand where the person was coming from. But she, I don't believe, was trying to be negative, or she wasn't trying to be mean. She was trying to basically say that you should just enjoy what you're involved in, accept it, that maybe the person's really interested in you and not an evil person, and so on. That was her view. Now I'm looking back on this many years later and realized that, gosh darn it, I was onto something, and it turned out to be accurate. Everything she said about maybe this person, this and that, was not accurate at all. As many things ended up being revealed about the creature. All the red flags I had noticed were actual red flags that were worse than red, deeper red than I even imagined. This turned out to be basically a dishonest devil creature that pretended to be everything it thought I wanted, and it was the classic predator syndrome where I was the weakened person who had been involved and was gun shy, and then this person was stepping in saying,
"Oh, I'm not like the others, I'll prove this to you,"
which is a sickening line a lot of them like to say, especially if you're apprehensive about getting involved, but they see you as a target that they could utilize. They'll be the first one to say,
"Oh, I would never do what your exes did. Oh, I'm nothing like them. Let me show you."
This creature proceeded to show its true colors over the course of a few years. We can't always rely on our friends for advice when it comes to this type of thing, because with these types of creatures, it typically does involve the isolation. That means they're your only main source of information about your relationship together, because everybody else, whether it be someone like this friend or someone that's actually actively involved with you and the creature, chances are, if that's the case, the creature works everyone. The creature looks at you and finds out who's closest to you. Sometimes the people who are closest to you are not ones they could manipulate easily. Those usually are left alone, but other times there'll be peers of yours that this other person will infiltrate with and will slowly try to sometimes turn against you. Well, in this case, that wasn't the case, but it does work this way either way, whether it's just someone you're speaking with that you haven't spoken to a lot lately or someone that's involved with you. You're on your own. You cannot rely on the other's views. You can tell your stories, but no matter what your story is to the other person, it's simply your view and your version and doesn't tell the other half of the story, which in many cases doesn't need to be told if they're evil and they're a predator. These predators do go after the vulnerable. They listen to you and they see what's important to you, so they make it a point to act as if those things that are important to you, they possess, and those things that you don't like, they don't possess, but they many times do. But they like to pretend. They play a fancy game of pretend, no matter how fake, Many times you'll pick up on that when they describe themselves lavishly with wonderful words of how great and caring they are, but then you witness them doing something completely uncaring on multiple occasions. It's often a dead end for you, because you'll even try to address such things with these creatures, and they always have an answer for it, but when the conversation's over, you usually find yourself without any answers still, because basically all they've done is given you a big chunk of gaslighting. I became kind of critical after being involved with such creatures. I would be skeptical of certain claims that these creatures would make. To put that in an example, let's say that you meet a new person. You're very family-oriented. The new creature in your life says, hey, let's go out tonight, and on more than one occasion, your response has been,
Oh, I can't. I'm going to help my mother with such and such this evening.
or another time could be,
Oh, I'm going to help my sister. She's studying for an exam, and I want to help her with that because she's trying to get a job.
or something along the lines of helping. You may present the image of a family-type person who is interested in helping members of your family. A creature like the cluster bee will pick up on that and then may come to you and say,
Oh, I always believe that family's very important. Yes, I love my family.
they may say these things to you, but say upon your experience with them, you notice a time when this creature, for example, calls the police on their own brother, turns it in for something he didn't do, and the brother ends up getting in trouble for it, or embarrassment, or some kind of problem. Or one who betrays its own mother is with you, the phone rings, its mother calls, and picks up the phone, and is completely lying, like,
Oh, Mom, I'm sick in bed. I can't talk now. Click.
something like that. You'll start to piece together a different puzzle from the puzzle that is presented to you, which is,
Oh, I love family. Oh, I'm so involved.
but then you keep seeing these examples of, wait a second, I can't help but notice you say you love family, but didn't you set your own brother up to get in trouble with the law? Didn't you lie to your mother that one time about this? And you go through a list, because your list is describing a person who's anti-family. Yet you're trying to compare that and reconcile it with the idea of hearing,
Oh, I love my family. I'm protective of them.
and you think, okay, I don't see protection of family. That's when you get pulled into that ridiculous labyrinth. Usually when you're dealing with these creatures over and over, it can get to the point where you will actually say, look, I'm sick of you making up false information. You keep telling me you're family-oriented, but you did this thing, and you did that thing, and you did this thing. Out of context, this looks like you're a nag. This looks like you're an evil person just looking to criticize another person, which is not the case. You're simply looking to understand what you're dealing with, because the words, I care about family so much, is a very strong statement, but then when compared with the reality of you turn in your family members, you lie to them, you do other horrible things to them, that's not the behavior of a person who loves family. It would make more of a logical sense to you if the person were to say,
Oh, you like your family? You're involved in yours? Well, I can't stand mine. I like to get my family in trouble.
so you don't hear that. You hear,
Oh, I love the family.
you're trying to work out the cognitive dissonance in your mind because you're seeing one thing but you're hearing another and they don't fit together, and you're trying to make it fit, and you'll usually end up just being criticized. It does usually get to a point where you've seen enough of the family destruction, so you're going to say, look, cut the crap. You're not a family person. You do not like your family. You've done these things to your family repeatedly, so why do you keep telling me you're a family person? Why don't you just say, you hate your family? And of course, they'll usually throw a fit, because that doesn't fit the image they're playing for you, and they'll turn it around onto you.
Why are you so critical of me? Why do you think you're perfect? Why do you think you have to say these things about me? It must make you feel good about yourself, and to talk down to me.
All this kind of crap, and it's like, I'm not talking down or up. I'm looking at an up and a down discussion and trying to make sense of it. You end up having to describe it in detail, like, someone who loves their family doesn't do this, and you go down a list. And then, of course, that makes it easy for them to run to these friends of yours that can potentially be flying monkeys for these creatures. They will run to them and say,
Oh, all he does is criticize me. All he does is say I'm so terrible about my family.
it's like, no, all he does is reflect reality, is what's really going on. The creature will never say,
Well, I told him I love my family, but then I destroy my family in front of him.
they won't say any of that. They'll just say,
I love my family, and he can understand that.
and it's like, no, you don't love your family. But beware, you can't always look to friends for support when dealing with these creatures. Whether they know them or don't know them, with these creatures, you have to be there to understand it. You can describe it to another person on the phone, but it's not going to be the same as you actually experiencing the hell these creatures will put you through. And of course, they're likely to discard you before you can discard them, because they can feel it's coming. And they'll be the first to smear your name to others and say how horrible you were and all you did was criticize. And they'll leave out that
All I did was present a picture that didn't make any sense, and they tried to make sense of it.
they won't say any of that. It'll just be altered to their viewpoint to make you look like the bad guy.
I am the sexiest, most beautiful narcopath of your life.
Do you remember that time that your parents almost got divorced, and I just acted like I had nothing to do with anything?
The truth was, your daddy had just lost his job unexpectedly. He planned on living off this fancy antique coin collection he had. I spotted that thing the first time I came over, and it was in my clutches. I couldn't tell you this, so I just kept quiet when he was crying in tears and banging his fist on the table, and your mother threatened to leave him, and the marriage almost broke up because of me. I needed those coins. He didn't need them. They were just sitting in the garage. I needed them for my own collection. Sorry if they divorced. I know that she accused him of lying about where they were. I just said nothing. I needed the money, and I got it, so that's all that matters to me. Not my problem.
Did you see my spread in Playboy? Literally?
You can read my lips all you want. I hope you saw it. I'm going to be in your town soon. I thought maybe we could get together. Let's let bygones be bygones. And let's just talk a little. How's that? You don't want to? Well, fine. I was just kidding anyway. You're disgusting. You make me sick.
I realize that you'll never be as smart, as beautiful, as intelligent as I am.
But that's your problem. It's not my fault. You shouldn't try to punish me for it. Quit telling people lies about me that I lied to you and cheated, even though I did. That's none of their business. Don't be telling my business. Do you understand? I don't want to hear any more boys I'm pursuing keep telling me that you keep telling them bad things about me, and I tell him that he's just jealous and wants me, but it's not working anymore. Keep your mouth shut, or I will get you. TJ is not here, so I'll threaten you all I want. Do not be talking about me unless it's good. You understand? You better. You better!
Walked into the door. I turned around when I heard that something from the floor. Love just like a dick does. Now I'm gonna show you. I need some time to get back your love. Can't stop now, don't you know? I'm never gonna let you go. Baby, make your mind up. Give me what you got. Be with your love, just know I'm just not. Hey, don't get down, stop to get you laid. Another night I feel alright, my love, you can't stop now, don't you know? I'm never gonna let you go.